When we think of Hollywood's golden age, we usually picture legendary actors who had it all: talent, charm, fame, and seemingly endless success. After all, these were the stars who captivated millions and became some of the biggest names in entertainment history. But behind the glamour, the reality was often very different. Away from the cameras, some of these Hollywood icons became known for making astonishingly poor decisions that left friends, directors, and even studio executives completely baffled. Some lost entire fortunes because they trusted the wrong people. Others fell for unbelievable scams, threw away career-defining opportunities, or kept repeating the same costly mistakes over and over again. What's even more surprising is that many of these stories were documented by biographers, interviews, and people who knew these stars personally. In today's countdown, we're taking a closer look at 9 Golden Age Hollywood actors whose actions off-screen often shocked people just as much as their performances impressed them on screen. And trust us, you'll want to stay until the very end. As the list goes on, the stories become even more unbelievable, and our number one pick is so shocking that many people still struggle to believe it actually happened. Let's get started. Mickey Rooney seemed destined for a perfect life. By the late 1930s, he was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, earning huge paychecks while most kids his age were still in school. But there was a hidden cost to that success. Because he started acting so young, Rooney received very little formal education, spending his childhood on movie sets instead of in classrooms. As an adult, that lack of preparation appeared to catch up with him. Despite earning millions throughout his career, he became known for poor financial decisions, repeatedly losing large fortunes and finding himself in financial trouble. His personal life was just as chaotic. Rooney was married 8 times, and many of those relationships ended in divorce, adding to his reputation for acting on impulse rather than thinking things through. Perhaps the saddest twist came later in life, when Rooney revealed that he had been financially exploited by members of his own family. He even testified before the United States Senate to raise awareness about elder financial abuse. It's important to remember that Mickey Rooney was never considered unintelligent. In fact, he was one of the most gifted performers of Hollywood's golden age. But his story is a powerful reminder that incredible talent and lasting fame don't always come with good judgment or wise decisions. Do you think Hollywood failed Mickey Rooney by turning him into a star before he had the chance to grow up? Or was he simply responsible for the choices he made? Let us know in the comments. Errol Flynn became one of Hollywood's biggest stars by playing fearless heroes, but off-screen, his life was defined by reckless decisions that made many wonder how someone so charismatic could repeatedly sabotage his own success. Even though he was born into a highly educated family, his father was a respected biology professor, Flynn showed little interest in discipline. As a teenager, he was expelled from school, abandoned his education, and chased adventure long before finding fame in Hollywood. Once he became a movie icon, it seemed like he had everything. But his inability to think about the consequences led him from one scandal to another. Heavy drinking, a reckless lifestyle, and increasingly poor decisions slowly destroyed both his reputation and his health. In 1943, Flynn stood trial on charges involving 2 17-year-old girls. He was acquitted, but the highly publicized case permanently damaged his public image and remains one of the most controversial chapters of old Hollywood. Instead of changing course, Flynn continued living as though he were untouchable. He spent lavishly, ignored medical warnings, and kept embracing destructive habits that rapidly accelerated his decline. By the age of 50, years of alcohol abuse and excess had taken their toll, ending the life of one of Hollywood's greatest swashbuckling legends and proving that charm and fame cannot make up for poor judgment. Do you think Errol Flynn wasted extraordinary talent, or was his downfall unavoidable? George Raft looked like the perfect gangster on screen, but many believe the most damaging decisions of his life happened far from the cameras. Raised in New York's Hell's Kitchen, he remained lifelong friends with organized crime figures like Bugsy Siegel and Oni Madden. Raft always insisted they were simply people he had known since childhood, and he was never convicted of being part of the mafia. Even so, those connections followed him throughout his career and often overshadowed his public image. What truly changed his future, however, were the opportunities he turned down. Raft rejected starring roles in films that would later become timeless classics, including The Maltese Falcon, High Sierra, and Casablanca. Those decisions opened the door for Humphrey Bogart, who took the roles and became one of the greatest stars in Hollywood history. As Bogart's career skyrocketed, Raft's slowly faded, leaving him trapped in similar gangster roles that never matched his earlier success. Over time, many came to see George Raft as a talented actor whose poor judgment cost him a legendary career. Was he simply too loyal to old friends and too reluctant to embrace change? Or did he throw away one of the greatest opportunities Hollywood ever offered? What do you think? Everyone remembers Judy Garland as the unforgettable Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. But few people know that behind that famous smile was a young woman whose childhood and health were sacrificed by Hollywood itself. As a teenager, MGM executives controlled nearly every part of her life: what she ate, how much she weighed, and even when she was allowed to sleep. To survive exhausting filming schedules, she was given stimulants to stay awake and sleeping pills to rest for just a few hours before doing it all again. What began as studio control eventually became an addiction that followed her for the rest of her life. As the years passed, Garland struggled with financial problems, turbulent relationships, and a lifelong battle with substance dependence. The tragedy is that many historians see her story not as one of a naturally unintelligent actress making reckless choices, but as the story of a young star who was shaped and ultimately broken by a Hollywood system that valued profits over people. Even so, she continued to captivate audiences with one of the greatest voices in entertainment history. In 1969, Judy Garland died at just 47 years old from an accidental barbiturate overdose, leaving behind an extraordinary artistic legacy and one of the most heartbreaking stories of Hollywood's golden age. What do you think? Was Judy Garland responsible for her own downfall, or did Hollywood fail her from the very beginning? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. When people heard the name Johnny Weissmuller, they immediately thought of Tarzan. With only a few lines of dialogue and a jungle yell that became one of the most iconic sounds in movie history, many assumed he was just as simple as the character he played. But the truth was very different. Long before Hollywood, Weissmuller was already a legend, winning 5 Olympic gold medals, setting dozens of world records, and going years without losing a single freestyle race. Born into a poor immigrant family, he left school at a young age to help support his mother, which only fueled the stereotype that he lacked intelligence. Then, Hollywood typecast him as Tarzan for nearly 2 decades. The role made him one of the biggest stars in the world, but it also convinced studios that he couldn't handle more sophisticated characters. Audiences ended up confusing the man with the role, and that image followed him for the rest of his life. Ironically, one of the greatest athletes of the 20th century became remembered more for 2 words and a famous yell than for his incredible achievements. Do you think Hollywood treated Johnny Weissmuller unfairly, or did he simply find the perfect role? Richard Burton seemed destined to become the greatest actor of his generation. With his unforgettable voice, extraordinary Shakespearean talent, and 7 Academy Award nominations, many critics believed he was the natural successor to Laurence Olivier. But instead of building an even greater legacy, Burton spent decades battling his own excesses. Alcohol, constant scandals, and an extravagant lifestyle led him to accept movies simply for the paycheck, while his health and reputation steadily declined. His turbulent romance with Elizabeth Taylor filled newspaper headlines, but behind the scenes, Burton openly admitted he was wasting his own potential. At one of the lowest points of his life, he was reportedly drinking several bottles of liquor a day and nearly died from alcoholism. The irony is that Burton was never lacking intelligence. In fact, he was highly educated, deeply passionate about literature and poetry, and famous for reciting Shakespeare from memory for hours. His downfall wasn't a lack of brains, it was an inability to control his impulses and make choices worthy of his extraordinary talent. To this day, many believe Richard Burton wasn't defeated by Hollywood, but by himself. What do you think? Is talent alone enough to build a legendary career, or does discipline always make the difference? Ava Gardner's journey to Hollywood happened almost by accident. A single photograph caught MGM's attention, and within a few years, the shy girl from North Carolina became one of the most desired women in the world. But behind the legendary beauty was someone who admitted she never truly felt prepared for fame. Her insecurity, limited formal education, and difficulty handling pressure often led her to make emotional decisions instead of rational ones. She married 3 times, including her explosive relationship with Frank Sinatra. Their romance was filled with passionate reunions, public arguments, and a lifestyle of parties and heavy drinking that constantly made headlines. While her career continued to shine on screen, her personal life grew increasingly chaotic, and many of her own choices came with a heavy price. That doesn't mean Ava Gardner lacked talent. In fact, many biographers argue that her greatest weakness was allowing her emotions to guide major life decisions, costing her opportunities that might have extended her Hollywood career even further. She remains a timeless legend, but also a reminder that beauty and fame don't protect anyone from making costly mistakes. What do you think? Was Ava Gardner simply a victim of Hollywood or of her own decisions? Lana Turner seemed to be living Hollywood's ultimate fairy tale. Discovered by chance at a soda fountain while she was still a teenager, she quickly became one of the biggest stars of the Golden Age. But behind the glamour, her personal life was filled with impulsive decisions that kept her in the headlines for decades. Turner was married 8 times and repeatedly placed her trust in the wrong people, especially in her relationships. The most shocking chapter came in 1958, when her boyfriend, gangster Johnny Stompanato, was fatally stabbed by her teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, during a violent confrontation. The incident stunned America and turned Lana's private life into a national spectacle. Despite the scandals, Lana continued acting and managed to keep her career alive for years, proving she was remarkably resilient. Her story isn't about a lack of talent or intelligence, but about how emotional decisions repeated over time can completely reshape a person's life. Do you think Lana Turner was simply a victim of her circumstances, or did her own choices create much of the drama that surrounded her? Let us know what you think in the comments. Buster Keaton was known as the Great Stone Face. While audiences laughed at his impossible stunts, his expression never changed. But behind that calm face was a man who would make one decision that changed his life forever. During the silent film era, Keaton was one of Hollywood's greatest geniuses. He wrote, directed, invented his own gags, and performed his own dangerous stunts without doubles. Then came an offer from MGM. It seemed like the obvious next step, but Keaton would later call it the worst mistake of my career. By signing that contract, he gave up the creative freedom that made his films unforgettable. Without control over his own work, his career faded, his marriage collapsed, and he struggled with alcoholism. Many people believe sound films destroyed Buster Keaton, but that's not the real story. His talent never disappeared. What he lost was control over his art. Years later, he overcame alcoholism, rebuilt his career, and was rediscovered by a new generation, eventually receiving an honorary Academy Award for his extraordinary contribution to cinema. Buster Keaton's story proves that sometimes it's not a lack of talent that brings down a genius. It's a single decision. Do you think he could have surpassed Charlie Chaplin if he had remained independent? It's easy to assume that fame, talent, and fortune automatically go hand in hand with good judgment. But as we've seen today, Even some of Hollywood's biggest legends made decisions that changed their lives forever. Whether it was trusting the wrong people, wasting incredible opportunities, or making the same costly mistakes over and over again. These stories remind us that success doesn't always protect someone from poor choices. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which actor's story surprised you the most? And is there another Golden Age Hollywood star you think deserved a place on this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey into the fascinating world of classic Hollywood. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.